the high school, there were like 40 boys. So really, really a small school. And I decided to start coaching. And I had like 5 kids and we got involved. I guess I was a kid as well at the time. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And we started developing a lot of decent players. And then I went back to our club once I started studying and finished school. And I said, listen, guys, can I take over that same junior program that I was involved in? And they said, sure, no problem. And it was me and this other guy, and who had coached me. And we started building it out and everything was going great. And then we hit COVID and everything shut down. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Just before that.
Before COVID?
Just before COVID. I went to Luke and I said to him, the guy that I was doing it with he told me one day he's going to Canada. And I was like, yeah, sure, but you go to Canada. And then he literally got up and went to Canada. And then I was left in the spot where it was just me running the whole thing. And that's when I went to Luke, and COVID hit, everything shut down. And then slowly after that, things started to open up. And then we started to build out Just Table Tennis, what we run today.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, right? So look, listening to Simon, he was introduced to the sports after having suffered some form of trauma as a kid. And I know you grew up in the Cape Flats. And I know that, with any township or any area that is dangerous, there's some sort of trauma attached to that. And parents would be worried about their kids getting into gangsterism, getting into drugs. How were you introduced to the sport? And was it a way of an escape for you as well? What's your story?
Yeah, man. So as you mentioned, it was the Cape Flats. So as a kid, so I grew up in a town called Bonteheuwel. Very well known for a lot of athletes that's come out of there.
Where Benny McCarthy comes from?
He's from Manova Park. But I think there's a story around a family member of his that's also from Bonteheuwel, and they used to play there and in between Manova Park and Bonteheuwel. But yeah, so I was in primary school, and how I came about, I used to see the kids who used to wear the provincial tracksuits instead of wearing school clothes to school. So you could wear like your jacket instead of wearing your school jacket. And I was like, why? What's so special about them? So I'm going to go find out, asked, what is this about? What sports is this? And I actually made provincial colors for 2 sports. Well, volleyball was one and table tennis was the other. But I guess it started by seeing these kids not wearing school uniform. And that's how I was like, okay, why, what's happening? And then the coach told me, okay, come back next week or whenever it was. And I started playing. And that's how my table tennis journey started. But it wasn't necessarily pushed by, I would say, like gangsterism or trauma. I think how it started for me was that if I probably didn't have table tennis, I could have fallen into gangsterism or drugs.
Did it start out as a desire or?
I think it was just, what's the word? Like curiosity. I think I was just curious around, I always loved sport, right? So I played soccer with my friends. I played cricket. We used to do all sorts of sports that was popular in that particular season, right? Except for swimming, because we didn't have a swimming pool. You know what I mean? So, so I was always involved in sports, but I was more curious around why these kids were wearing these tracksuits, and I wanted one for myself. And then playing table tennis was like, there was such a sense of community, right? So if I can tell you, maybe there was this push. So I had a single mom, absent father, typical story. Mom got involved with a guy ran off, never wanted to build a relationship. So the guy that taught me table tennis was like this father figure in my life. And so
like a stepfather.
He was my maths teacher, who was my coach, but he really did more than what a teacher needed to do. He was, picking me up, dropping me off at home, taking me to training. I can remember a time where we didn't have money for club fees. And if you didn't pay your club fees, you weren't eligible to play trials. So I was a talent, but I didn't have money to play trials to go represent Western Province at the national chaps. So it was like, I'll make you a deal. I'll pay your fees as long as you win it, and you just keep focusing on playing the sport. Don't worry about the money, and I've got you. So he really supported me. He ran a business on the side, and this is probably where my business skills started, where I used to go door-to-door canvassing, selling juice on weekends for him. So he really played a big part in my life, that he filled that gap of the father figure, and he gave me an opportunity to make a little bit of money on the side by selling juices and stuff. I guess that's how I started. That's the person in my life that helped me get into the sport, sort of, navigate my life away from the negativity, the drugs, the gangsterism, etc. Just keep introducing me to a positive environment. That for me was, I suppose, my story.
Yeah. Simon, you took the sport and eventually got into vets, did electrical engineering. Did you eventually practice as an engineer, or what happened with that?
Yeah, so the first job, so I've been working now out of university for about 4 years. Straight from university, I went into a very, very, very large Chinese company in the networking game, cell phones, that type of stuff. I spent 2 years there, and even there, like, the sport played a really interesting part of my life, because firstly, even in the interviews, I was being interviewed by a few Chinese guys, and in China, it is a massive, massive sport. So as soon as I mentioned to them that, oh yeah, I've got this hobby that I play table tennis and I do some coaching, they were like amazed. So I think even from there, it was a great start. And then even when I was at when I was at WOW, when I was in a very, very technical role, I was doing like the last bit of the network. So from the cell phone towers to the phones, I was working in that space, and I found out there was this like underground table tennis ring happening at the company. It was like from a movie. You couldn't believe it. And there was an email sent out, and it was all in Chinese, but I saw a picture of a bat, and I was like, no, I'm going to find out what this is about. I translated it, and they said, no, there's table tennis in, I think it was Building 5 on a Wednesday afternoon, and I went to go play.
Was this Huawei?
Yeah, Huawei, yeah.
Oh, it was Huawei, okay.
An amazing place, Huawei, actually. Fascinating place. I learned a fortune there.